As part of the launch planning process for Brainwise, I wanted to present you with a detailed email strategy so that you can use this template here on MindMap in order to actually have your copywriter create the emails from this detailed script. So we know that there are three phases in the launch. There's a pre-launch where you're warming up the audience. Then there's a pre-launch, which in this case actually happens once you've announced the webinar, which indicates the cart open, that third phase. And so the pre-launch is what happens as people are being warmed up before that webinar. And then there's the actual cart open period, the 5 days or so while you're selling. So let's look at pre-launch first. And in here, we're doing two things. We're bringing new people onto the list, and then once we do it, we build that know, like, and trust factor. And then we'll actually, start to warm them up for our launch. So looking here first at the know, like, and trust factor, we test various lead magnets to improve conversions to get them onto the list. So you'll be running Facebook ads and you'll be doing other things to get people onto your list. Then once you get them onto your list, there's two email subsequences that you have to run, which you should be familiar with from your study of the Russell Brunson information. So the first one is a pre-loaded autoresponder series of 3 to 5 emails, which Russell calls the soap opera sequence. And so this is how you give them your background and your story and get them interested in the whole brain technology arena. And so everybody gets this initially, then they are moved on to your Seinfeld series emails, which are not autoresponder, but they're what you put out, say, once a week to keep you in front of the list. So you're going to pick weekly topics around broad uses for the Gibson test, and other things that would be useful to various components of your market. So sometimes to moms, sometimes to seniors, sometimes to veterans, etc. And then you're going to warm up your list segments with these broad topic posts, and then doing live videos in relation to that, maybe sending your audience to see your live videos on your new Facebook group. Now, before the launch, you're going to do the transition event, the mini series on homework that we talked about. And so you're going to do you start to let them know that, hey, there's some focused content coming up. And that's what brings us into this pre-launch phase. So for an overview, as you introduce each new piece of content, you provide a link to the funnel page where the video lives. And so the main content's going to live on one of those funnel pages that I showed you with the videos on the top. But you're going to send people in the email here, and then on that page, as well as in your email, you're going to promote the link to sign up for the webinar for the advanced content. And of course, on that page, as we showed you yesterday, registrants will be able to see the previous pre-launch videos. Now let's talk about the pre-webinar flow to your broad list. So you're doing two types of things, focusing on getting people to the webinar. So first is what you do to get registrants, and then once you get the registrants, they'll come off of that list, you'll tag them so that they'll only get the follow-up with those who register. So here is a sequence, and I'm not going to go over it in specific detail because it would be redundant. You can read this and see what it's all about. So I'm suggesting that you send out, say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 emails over 7 days to get registrants for the webinar. And then once they're registered, you're going to send them to the PLC 1 through 3 videos, that we've talked about at length. Okay, so that brings us to the pre-card open sequence. And so remember, the card opens with your webinar. So now you have people registered for the webinar and you're sending them emails to send them to each of these videos and ultimately to sign up for the advanced webinar if they're coming to the site without having done this before. So that's what the email sequence is for pre-launch, bringing them to the webinar and the card open. So I talked about this a little bit yesterday, but in your emails and in your videos, you can use these 9 different tools as varying ways in order to deliver your content. And now in the email sequence, again, we have 5 days of emails, and all I'll do is go over number 1 just to give you a flavor, but you can go over this in detail. So right out of the gate, we want to tell them I've had strong signups from my live webinar attendees. However, because the initial broadcast caught people with short notice, I wanted to provide everyone with a replay. The webinar had a lot of information, so I made you this shortened video with the essential aspects of my offer. Okay, so you're sending them a link to the replay page, and if you're shortening the video, if you need to tighten it up because it dragged, it wasn't typed. But otherwise, just send them put the entire replay on the replay webinar page, which is in that funnel format. Now, the video replay, you're going to tell them to skip directly to the offer, fast forward to 43 minutes into the video. What I like to do is I like to give people an opportunity to say, okay, I know there was probably great content, but I don't have a lot of time, so I want to see the offer itself. And so what I do is I provide a visual. I might make a PowerPoint slide of the stack slide and put it as a PDF, right on the web page so people can see what the offer is. Or you can detail it like Jeff did in Product Launch Formula. You just list as bullet points one thing after another. And then certainly the purchase link to buy the course. So that's all in day 1. Similarly, the content is in these other days leading to day 5 when the cart closes. Okay, so there we have it, the entire email sequence. I hope you guys find this helpful.